Good morning and welcome to a live monthly Lunch and Learn. This month we're talking about incentive schemes and how to introduce an incentive scheme that motivates and inspires your team. I'm joined today with a special guest from the NZI Fleet Fit Partners, Gareth Buffer.
Yeah.
Welcome, Gareth.
Thanks, Kelly.
CCS Logistics. Gareth, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, the business? What do you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Thanks for the invite today. Thanks for joining us. CCS Logistics, we turn GPS data into meaningful insights that show how well our customers' vehicles are being driven. We have a fleet score dashboard that summarises a driver's attitude to speed limit violations and risk taking. And we sort of consolidate that data into a nice, easy to read report.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've invited Gareth along today because obviously these fleet score reports are something that the New Zealand transport logistics industry is talking about a lot. We're talking about how people are using those to motivate people's driving behaviour and, change the way that people think about their driving, but also to give the drivers a tool that's really empowering and, about their recognising where they're doing a really good job more than taking a punitive approach.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. That's what we sort of try to lean into is we recognise that there's, thousands of drivers out there that are doing a brilliant job every day and some are being recognised for that, some are being overlooked. Fleet Score, if you like, really focuses on that, reward and recognition piece, rewards drivers that are doing a brilliant job, encourages others to do a little bit better. I often talk about, we help drivers go from good to great, and we recognise those who are already there.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so we're going to talk about incentive schemes in general today, but Gareth's got so many good experiences from the development of Fleet Score and the way you guys apply it that I thought would be really relevant to the topic. Gareth does have a wide range of transport and logistics experience in other places, things like I believe you worked with different camera systems and, so we're going to have a general conversation today, but right. Drawing on that experience. So look, the first thing maybe just to outline is when we talk about an incentive scheme, what do we mean? Like, what is that? So from my perspective, this is really about how to motivate people to meet your expectations or exceed those at work. So how to meet and exceed the standards that you're putting in place. And those incentives might be things like financial incentives, so monetary reward or bonuses, or they might be non-financial, so vouchers or objects or things like that. And one of the big things probably to come to as a starting point for the definition of all of this is that this is not just about rewarding people for their behavior or giving them something as a gift to say, hey, well done. It's also about that recognition piece, and that's really important because if you think about the way that all of us show up to work, some people are really motivated and excited by being given something or but others, they just like a pat on the back, and actually, hey, I've noticed you're working really hard, I noticed you're doing a really good job, I noticed that's fantastic numbers or whatever it might be. And whether it's public or private, that recognition is just as important. So, I think that's something to kind of keep in mind when you're designing whatever the solution is going to be for your business. The other thing, just in terms of, defining this incentive scheme, is that it is not just for drivers. Most of the schemes that I see implemented are driver incentive programs, but I urge you, if you're putting something like this into play, just remember that any transport business is a system and every person in it plays a part, and the behaviour of your workshop team, of your dispatch team, of your operations team, your admin team, all have an impact on how your drivers are able to do the task that they're doing. So it's worth considering what are the things that motivate or inspire or reward the other parts of your business as well. All right, so let's get on to some nitty gritty. We're going to talk today quite a lot about examples of how different companies have rolled out incentive schemes. And then Gareth and I are going to just draw on some of that experience and talk about what might some of the pitfalls be and where to, how to watch out. So we referenced Fleet Score. Gareth, can you maybe just tell us a little bit, using an example, how some companies are rolling that out?
Yeah, so fleet score is, can be obviously tailored to each individual business, and we recognise that every business that we deal with is slightly different, and obviously the drivers will have a very different view on reward and recognition and tools that are perhaps tools of measurement. So really we'll be working with the client to roll it out, to implement it in a way that suits their business. So for some clients that will be they want us to run a couple of months worth of fleet score data to look at some reports, and then we'll have a discussion about what's going well, what areas need to improve, and then we'll discuss how that looks in terms of implementation. Other fleets that we work with, they all say, look, we're not going to roll this out until we've had conversations with our drivers first, and then we'll bring fleet score in at a later date, but further down the line. So really it's about tailoring it to the individual business so that we get the right outcomes. If we're just pushing it out there as another report without any explanation or commentary, then I think we're sort of starting on the wrong foot, and drivers will be sort of a bit defensive about it. So really it's about engaging drivers in what fleet score is about, why we do it, why we sort of provide it in the way that we do provide it, which is really easy to read. It's very high level. There's not a whole lot of detail that is provided on the reports, and the detail comes from the conversations that we're trying to encourage transport operators and drivers to have. If you like, so empowering them to make decisions, empowering them to take ownership of what does good look like, and then obviously as a result of that, then this comes a level of reward, recognition, whatever that might look like.
That totally makes sense, right? The number of people that say, oh my gosh, that telematics data or my camera data or whatever it is, fantastic, but too much. Like, I just can't make sense. Who's got time to go through all of that? Yeah. And that's the cool thing about fleet score, is you're really kind of boiling it down to some of those important metrics.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So fleet score, just on that, fleet score is obviously around speed management, but we can, because we're independent, we can take data from pretty much any system that's stored in the vehicle. So whether that's your camera systems, your fatigue monitoring systems, your logbooks, your pre-start inspections. We're looking at other ways that we can include data from other systems that are, perhaps like reporting systems around safety and on-site inspections and that sort of stuff. So really it's about consolidating the valuable data into an easy to read format that is relevant to that particular business and that driver. And like I say, initiates a conversation and some sort of incentive to maintain and improve.
Yeah, change management, obviously, topic very, very close to my heart about how these programs are rolled out. And I love what you said there, focusing on the why, and that it's not punitive. It's not about catching you out. It's about rewarding people for good behavior. And I think doing that can motivate others to kind of lift the rising tide.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, peer coaching is very powerful, isn't it?
For sure. Yeah. And just if you think about that change management methodology, starting with the why, but then how do I give people the knowledge that they need, which is the data, that's telling them actually, oh, did you know that you spent this many times last month? Oh, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, that's right.
But then also that coaching that you're talking about, which is giving them the ability to make a change, the skills that they need, and then the reinforcement saying, okay, each month you're going to have visibility of this, but also there's manager level reports, isn't there? So the managers, they can see trends, they can see how it's going for their whole fleet.
Yeah, we can do that in benchmarking against other, depots within the same business, benchmarking against other fleets in the industry. Again, that's one of the unique things about us, is because we're not aligned to any one provider. We can take data from any system and, if you like, normalize it so that we can provide benchmarking across the industry, which is really quite cool.
I was with a fleet the other day, and the fleet manager said to me, Kelly, I don't want to incentivize people for just doing their job. Like, this is the thing that people should be showing up to work. They should be wearing seatbelts. They shouldn't be speeding. They should be doing their pre-trip inspections. Those are the basics. And I guess I have two sort of perspectives on this, because yes, it is difficult to reconcile. I'm incentivizing you just to do your job. But what's the flip side if people are not meeting your expectations and meeting those standards? Is actually they're unsafe. Their fuel usage and cost of unplanned repairs and maintenance, and all the things that we talk about as the return on investment for having a good safety culture and for having good risk management in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, for me, it's definitely two parts to it, isn't there? There's the what motivates us to do a good job anyway, and I think most of us are generally motivated to do a good job. So it's about, if you like, a culture that provides that environment where people, can feel empowered and motivated to do the job well. And then there's the second part of it is, what is the recognition that goes alongside that and wraps around it. So, for me, it's around, sort of leading into the leadership piece is leadership really is about, motivating people to do their best. Yeah, exactly. Motivating people to do things that they know they need to do, and to do them in a way that's safe. And then there's the other part, which is, well, like, if you're continuing to do that, then the recognition for the team or yourself personally is X, and that could be, like you say, a pat on the back, or $100 voucher, or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Let's talk about some specifics about what those incentives and rewards have been, because a different client came to me and said, can you help me out with this? I'm really frustrated. I wanted to offer my guys discounted gym memberships, and then somebody else said, no, they were really motivated, and if we could negotiate a discount on health insurance for the team. And it's really frustrating because not everyone doesn't want the same thing. I'm like, because we're human, right? And we're all motivated by slightly different things. And for some people, it isn't near money. Or I had one client where we were considering rolling out a scheme, and he was really nervous. He said, I can't afford to give the guys more money. I'd love to, but right now, we're at where we can be at. And I said, well, have you even asked the team what they want? And it turns out they said, oh, we just love the boss's boat. It looks amazing, packed over there in the corner of the yard. If he could just take the top couple of drivers every, a month, each month or something, out on this boat for a Saturday afternoon, that would be amazing. And the boss was made up, and he was like, like, that's totally achievable. I could do that. And and so it's just that match of expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some cool stories.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of money is the sort of the go-to often, because it's, we can all pretty much connect to that. An extra $100 or $50 or whatever it might be, is always going to help out, I'm sure, for most people. But it doesn't always mean, it doesn't need to be consistently to be that. So some examples that I've sort of had recently is that money was a good motivator for 90% of the drivers, but for 10% of the drivers, it really wasn't, because they weren't motivated by an extra $50 or $100 or whatever it was. They were more motivated about the boss doing something specific for them, or perhaps taking an interest in what they were doing. So let's say, as an example, this one that I'm thinking about, a particular driver was very much into brewing and whiskies and that sort of stuff, and they knew quite a lot about it, but the present that they got wasn't what they were quite expecting. So it was sort of almost a bit of a demotivator. The intention, of course, by the owner was to try and provide something that's specific to them, but again, I think that's just about understanding the drivers perhaps a little bit more in those situations, where money doesn't always do what you want it to do.
I think the other thing we've talked about before is the difference between an individual scheme versus a team scheme. What we talked about so far is about how to motivate individuals, but it's really cool when workplaces take a more team approach. What are the team goals? How much freight have we carried? Got running for X number of days with no incident, whatever it might be. I think you had a team dinner story. Yeah, no,
it's absolutely. So I was doing a driver briefing as we were about to roll out Fleet Score, and the drivers were a little bit unsure about it, of course, as they often are. But by the end of it, they were quite engaged, quite leaning into the conversation, and saying to the boss, like, hey, you your hand in your pocket for some money, take us out for dinner or something like that. And the boss was up there, we can do that sort of thing. I was perhaps thinking, $50 fuel voucher for everybody if you got above a certain score. And then one guy piped in, no, boss, it should be a team. It should be a team thing. You know, we're a small business, you know, we're a team. It should be a team event. And that's when they turned out. So actually, we'll go out for dinner. And they've done that. And I got an email the other week saying, you know, we're stoked with our results and the team are on board and we're going out for dinner. So I think that's really cool. But I mean, that will work for them, might not work for everybody. But I think really the key thing is that, you know, keep it relevant, keep it current. You know, what works today might not work next month, you know, so.
Yeah, I've got one client at the moment with the cost of living and groceries and whatever, who their approach was $100 countdown Woolworths vouchers. And one of the reasons they thought that it was working so well is because often the grocery voucher went home to the families. And if for whatever reason the driver didn't hit the standard, didn't get the score or whatever it was, the family would say, hey, Bob, I was relying on that $100 grocery voucher for the household shopping. And so there was this, not peer pressure, but like family pressure on them to say, you better pull up your socks, mate, you know, like I expect you to drive better and safer and, you know, more consistently, whatever, because actually I'm relying on that money. And I thought, what a cool way to tap into someone's motivation. You want their family nagging them, but you know what I mean? That was a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, sort of making it relevant, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think another really, I think probably the one that stands out the most in terms of how I think you know, it's probably the most effective one is quite simply the drivers that get above a certain score, their name goes into a hat. And then another, and then at the beginning of the next month when they get their scores out, you know, a driver will pull the name out. And they'll video and it goes out on WhatsApp. They sort of put it out on that WhatsApp, so that everybody's sort of part of it. And those that have got a score above 90, you know, they get an opportunity to win a prize. In that particular situation, it's a cash bonus, but it could be anything. Not everybody is getting it, but everybody has the opportunity to take part. Yeah, exactly. Which I think is really quite cool. And those that haven't quite made it, they understand that. You know, in order to get that opportunity, they just need to improve a little bit. So I think it's a really powerful one.
I think that it's worth maybe talking a little bit about the pitfalls or some of the problems that we have seen, you know, because sometimes these incentive schemes have absolutely the right intention, but unintended consequences in the way that they're rolled out. And we both talk a lot about the fact that it's critical that they're fair in terms of the way they're rolled out, you know. There's examples where you have drivers that do different freight tasks, you know, some that are metro, some that are line haul, whatever. And so obviously they have slightly different risk factors, slightly different, you know, metro drivers less likely to be speeding, et cetera, et cetera. So just figuring out how to make it fair. And I think, like you said before, how to keep it as simple as possible, because you don't really want people to be fighting over the rules or feeling resentful or disgruntled. You want them to be focused on what's the outcome, what are we trying to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, that obviously it's relevant for incentive programs, but I think it's also relevant for the delivery of technology. You know, when you sort of have what's a conversation look like with drivers about why we're putting technology into a vehicle. The intent is because you want to keep people safe, but it becomes a little bit of a conflicted message when, you know, you're only putting technology in 50% of the fleet, because then the drivers are receiving that information. They're saying, well,
why are you singling me out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're protecting, keeping those 50 drivers safe, but you're not keeping me safe. So again, it's that same sort of message. And I think the same thing, it leans into the same with the incentive stuff. So again, it's about being consistent. It's about, you know, if the start of an incentive program, it's making sure that, you know, every month, every quarter that incentive is delivered against, and people understand, you know, what is who's got it, why they got it.
So making it visible.
Exactly. So if the incentive scheme, let's say the incentive scheme was for drivers, and perhaps only, you know, 90% of those drivers could get a fleet score.
What about the other?
What about the other 5%? Exactly. So it's again about being consistent and fair. Yeah.
I think the other thing you said was about relevant, and the schemes that I've seen work the best tend to be refreshed. You know, so it might be every 12 months or so. They engage the drivers, they chat to them about it, or the other team members in the business, and say, hey, we're thinking to do something different. What are your ideas? You know, and like I said before, negotiating discounted gym memberships, or you know, it can be quite a good way of looking at some of the other behaviors you're trying to change. But I think with your rewards and recognition schemes, two things to think about. When you start to have a regular reward that you can kind of count on, it becomes a little bit, people feel a little bit like it's an entitlement.
Yes.
And so it's just about saying, well, is this actually an entitlement? Is this actually, if you get to this minimum standard, then yep, you get a bonus? Or is it a reward? And that's what I like about everyone's eligible when someone's drawn out of a hat.
Yeah.
It creates some spontaneity about it that still makes it feel like it really is a bonus that you're in to win kind of thing.
That's right.
But yeah, something to consider. Some of the other considerations, just looking back at my notes, making it personal. Like we said before about taking the guy fishing on the boat or whatever it might be, or the whiskey for the guy who was into whiskey. It's okay to, I know of one really powerful reward where the guy was super into gardening, but he lived in a small townhouse or something, he didn't have a space. And the boss said, hey mate, out the back by the shed, there's a patch of dirt there. I'm happy to make it available to you, and like we'll work together. I'll put a bit of money in. They built it up, some raised beds, and the guy started growing this amazing veggie garden and was supplying the depot worth of veggies.
Fantastic.
So yes, it's not an incentive program, but those rewards being very personal can be super motivating. Guarantee you that driver wasn't leaving.
No, that's right.
Leaving that business.
Right. It's about where do you get your energy from, and that sort of stuff. That phone call from the boss to say, hey, fantastic fleet score this month, or whatever it might be, is possibly enough. Like your example, it's about money. It's about providing something that the person felt valued and connected with their boss.
100%. So just a couple of other cautionary notes. We talked about the difference between a punitive versus a motivating kind of scheme, but I think it's also worth considering the people that are already doing well. So sometimes incentive schemes are about seeing people improve their behavior, but if you've already, if the metric is, well, we'll reward people who are 15% better or whatever, how does that work if I'm already awesome? That's what I like about your example of if you're reached this level at fleet score. I think that's really cool. And then just a little bit of caution about using safety technology in the metrics and unintended consequences, right? Particularly if we think about things that are there to measure fatigue. That is not something we want really involved in an incentive scheme, because fatigue is human. That safety equipment is there to catch if somebody needs support or has an issue. I don't feel that's an appropriate metric to be included in something like that.
Oh, well done, you didn't fall asleep at the wheel this month.
Yay.
That's right. Exactly. No, I think absolutely good points there. And I have had drivers say to me, who have been performing very well, so have I got to get worse before I can before I can get an opportunity to be rewarded for it. And that's a really good point. So that's why that name out of the hat thing works quite well, because it gives everybody a fair opportunity to do it. And we don't include any other metrics from any other technology in fleet score for that very reason. Because fleet score is about speed management, it's about driver attitude to risk taking and speed limit violations and that sort of stuff, and it's a consistent, fair measurement in the main. And people generally understand it, and they've got absolute control over it.
Just last couple of minutes, I want to talk about other staff members and some of the incentives for them, and unintended consequences, because I have seen this before, particularly if you're talking about your operations team, and having a metric like goods delivered on time, or particularly around on time. And just thinking that through, that you could be putting unnecessary pressure on drivers to speed, if that's the metric that they're driving for. So it's probably just whatever the metric is, having a think about how could that, making sure it can't be gamed, making sure it can't be misinterpreted. I really like it when it was things like metrics about not spending money on unplanned repairs and maintenance. I think that's a great metric, because that says we're taking care of the gear, we're driving safely, we're being cautious. Or goods delivered without damage. I think that's another great metric, because again, that talks to safety culture and care and quality, and could be things like Net Promoter Score, which is the feedback you get from your customers to say, are we doing a good job? Were our people friendly? You know, did they do a good job with their deliveries? I think that's a really cool metric. So there are other things out there that you can measure the team on. Don't forget about the rest of the team, motivating the rest of the team. I think if you put all of your eggs in the driver basket, yes, that is your critical risk in terms of their on-road driving. But you want the whole team to feel like a team, to be motivated and charged up.
What role does the dispatcher play in whether or not, you know, Bob speeds or not? You know, it's all that sort of stuff, isn't it? Comes to play, and that's really, really important.
All right, well, look, thanks very much. That is the end of today's webinar. Thank you, Gareth, for being my guest.
Thank you.
And next month we're going to be talking about overcoming the skeptics and installing camera systems. So back to the, I guess, at change management and what motivates people kind of discussion again. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
See you.